Welcome on in, everybody, here to Auburn Undercover. Nathan King with Jason Caldwell. We're going to try to talk over the stadium testing. Oh, they heard us.
We'll go back and forth screaming and talking normal.
Jason, it's getting a little chilly here in the shade, and you know what that means. That means it's time for November football here at Auburn. Based on the crowd outside of the game, this is going to be a spectacular atmosphere against a ranked opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I expected nothing less. I mean, last Saturday kind of showed us what this was going to be. I mean, people showed up for a ULM and knew this was going to be a big one, and I think it's going to be a big deal. The only SEC night game of the season for Auburn, and I mean, that's always been a special atmosphere. I think it's going to be great, and I think it's going to be it can play a big part in this one. I think for Auburn, you got to keep them engaged in the game. That means getting off to a good start. You don't have to get off to a fast start. You just can't get off to a bad start tonight, and that's the key.
Yeah, defensively, I think is where you kind of look for Auburn in this game because they've done a good job of keeping Auburn in games all season, and it's going to be a big challenge for them today. Auburn's players said this week that Marcel Reed, the Texas A&M quarterback, was going to be their biggest challenge of the season. That's what linebacker Eugene Asante said in terms of containing a mobile quarterback. Jason, we've seen Auburn this year go against a lot of teams with players like this. Yeah. They've got a lot of experience. Hugh Freeze said they've gotten better at containing quarterbacks. This is a different kind of athlete that they've got in Marcel Reed, and he really kind of changed this offense when they inserted him at quarterback.
Yeah, I think a more dynamic version of the guy we saw at Oklahoma, and he caused Auburn some problems. Now, they did a pretty good job, but he hit a couple of passing plays. I think that's the danger today is that you get so caught up in trying to stop the run. He can throw the football, and he's got some arm strength, and so you look at it, and we've seen Auburn. They've given up a big explosive pass play or two every game, and like they've done a great job of slowing people down, but it's been a couple of those explosive plays that have hurt them. If you can avoid that tonight and make A&M drive it, right. I mean, Auburn's done a pretty good job of doing that. This team's been really good in the red zone, A&M has. Can you stuff them and not let them get some momentum? I think that'll be big too.
Yeah, especially when A&M doesn't have their bell cow running back in Le'Veon Moss. He obviously was out earlier this season. Looking on the other side of the ball for Auburn, on the when you're talking about Auburn's offensive line, Texas A&M, we know they've always got great players on the defensive front. A couple potential first rounders. I think this is a game you definitely got to get Jarquez Hunter going because putting it all on Peyton Thorne against Nick Scorton and Shamar Turner, you probably don't want that over the course of 4 quarters.
Yeah, no, I think you got to be able to run the football. You got to have success on first down. I think success on first down can be using the short passing game as an extension of the run. We saw it with Cam Coleman first drive last week where they throw it a couple of times for him, 5-yard gain. You break a tackle, have a big play. And so to me, can you use the passing game and some of those short passing game? Hey, throw it to Jarquez out. Got to stay 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. If you start having 2nd, 8 or 9s all day long, that is not a great recipe for success against this defense or anybody else for this Auburn offense.
Yeah, this A&M run defense, they're pretty good. They're not fantastic. And as you and I were talking about on Thursday's show, broken tackles. I mean, 110 missed tackles for this A&M defense on the season. Flip side, Jarquez Hunter, number 6 nationally in missed tackles forced. And so you feel like if you can kind of get him rolling, again, when he's been rolling this year, it's been really, really good for Auburn. It's been a matter of getting him those opportunities in games. You know, Peyton Thorne, we saw him throw for 5 touchdowns last week. Obviously, Auburn's hoping he's close to 100% with that shoulder injury. Cam Coleman had a great game against ULM. Like you mentioned, starting to get him some more confidence. You can't just spam him the football in this game. KLS is obviously a great player and the number 1 target for Auburn as an offense. But I agree with you. If you can get Cam Coleman maybe a couple touches, maybe close to the red zone and kind of open up, I think when he is at his best, it increases the ceiling of this pass.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be early. I think you need to get him involved early. Keandre Lambert-Smith is a veteran guy. He's used to being a guy that's kind of finding his way. For that young guy, getting involved early keeps you involved. And here's the other part of this one. Cam Coleman's committed to Texas A&M. This is going to be a game where he's going to be hyped up, and I think you give him a couple of shots early, maybe a couple of deep balls early. We've seen him some double moves. Maybe you go, hey, we're going to do max protection, get the ball off, and give him a shot down the field.
Sure.
Give him a chance for some of those one-on-ones. Early in the year, they tried to do that a bunch. after he got hurt, we didn't see much of that. We saw a little bit now the last couple of weeks. Can you get back to taking a couple of those shots? I think there's going to be some opportunities because A&M knows they got to stop the running game. I don't think it's any secret for either one of these defenses where it goes. There's going to be some opportunities in the passing game.
Yeah.
Which team can capitalize?
Yeah, Jason, I mean, if it goes as most expect, this is going to be a close 4-quarter game. I mean, I think I saw the line come down. A&M's only a 1-point road favorite. We've seen Auburn in close games this season not be able to get it done. It's really going to come down to execution in those crucial moments. And like we talked about, trying to ride this home crowd because there's no doubt they're going to be behind them for 4 quarters.
Correct. And then you look at the other one. We saw Ian Vachon last week. He makes a bunch of kicks against ULM. Going to be a much different atmosphere to try to kick in tonight. Can Auburn make a couple of those short ones? I mean, we've seen that be a big thing. And here's the other part of it. You get across the 50 maybe in this game. Do you start to prepare going, hey, look, if we can get 4th and 2, 4th and 3, I go ahead and be more aggressive in those situations
why
instead
not?
of trying to settle for a 50-yard field goal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them go ahead and prepare going, hey, cross the 50. We know we've got 4 downs to get 10 yards, and you call plays a little different that way.
Yeah, it's not that Auburn has nothing to lose in this game, but A&M's playoff contention, SEC contention, Auburn's, there's certainly more pressure.
And some of that changes depending on how the game goes late. Then you might punt, play defense, do some of those.
Sure, and Auburn has the opportunity, though, to kind of play loose. And like this game a couple years ago, Auburn has the advantage of not having so much pressure. It's also a huge recruiting weekend, of course, anytime you have a top 15 team coming into town, but it's elevated a little bit as you get close to signing day. We'll bring in our Christian Clemente to talk about some of the visitors this weekend.
Yeah, Jason, we knew it would be a huge weekend, and we said, look, be ready for some names to start to pop up. We said all along we thought Naeem Offord would be there, wasn't on the visitor list. We said, look, all 3 games he's visited already this year, he hasn't been on the list. The news of him visiting, although he could drive down for a practice or something like that. He's been to a practice already this fall, but one final crack at him. Your final crack at a lot of these guys before signing day on December 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got like Naeem Offord, they're still in the playoffs, so he'll be playing next Friday. So it'd probably be tough for him to do that since they're in the semis. And so this is the last opportunity. We've talked about this compressed schedule when you're talking about signing day, the Wednesday after the Iron Bowl. The in-home visit time's not going to happen. Really, a lot of those things, it all becomes these weekends, these opportunities. And so for Auburn and Hugh Freeze and his coaching staff, you're going to have to take some of those opportunities to say, and this is going to have to sell it for you.
Yes.
I mean, you've already done the talking. They know what it is. Tonight, the atmosphere, your play on the field, all those things, that can be the determining factor on whether you're able to push a couple of these guys over the finish line.
And we've discussed it already over this past week. A loss doesn't kill you. You've lost 6 at this point. A win would certainly help you. That would help you a lot to get a top 15 win.
Yeah.
SEC home game at night under the lights. See what happens with a guy like Justice Terry, the 5-star defensive lineman from Manchester. Georgia, he was committed to Georgia, flipped to USC, decommitted. Georgia's the heavy favorite yet again to get him, but Auburn's taking a late swing. Kenyatta Watson, a guy that has a ton of connections throughout Georgia. Vontrell King-Williams obviously keeps trying to add to that class, so we'll see what happens with him. But the realistic defensive line target that we're really focusing in on is Darion Smith, the St. Francis product, teammates with obviously 3 commits, in for his official visit, his first visit to Auburn. Will be his last visit. I don't think it'll be the last time he's in Auburn, though.
No, I think Auburn is in a great shot with him. You think about he has 3 teammates committed. Those guys are strong. They tweet about Auburn all the time. They brought teammates down this weekend.
They tweet about Auburn women's basketball.
Absolutely. I think it's a big deal, big weekend for him. And if you're Auburn, you look around the country, and I mean, other than quarterback, obviously offensive tackle, to me the most important position right now in football is interior defensive line. Auburn's trying to bolster that group. This will be another big addition for that.
He's a huge one, and then even shifting down to 2026, Bryce Perry-Wright from Buford, who's been here a couple times already. Vodney Cleveland, the Alabama commit from Parker, he'll be down as well with that Parker crew. So a lot of guys, and then obviously your other 3 official visitors, you got Bryce Dees, Sam Turner, Cale Ellis. You've got those guys coming in for their OVs as well. Feel good about where Auburn sits with all of those. And then touch on it real quick. The other interesting note is Nate Marshall was supposed to be visiting Auburn today, instead visiting Texas for an official visit. He's literally never been to Texas before. Concern level isn't super high at Auburn, but you really have to monitor it this weekend, especially since he was supposed to be here. Now, he told Auburn beforehand that he was going to visit, but it was an interesting development on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, I think that's why you continue to recruit guys. You continue to go after guys. You continue to you know, we're talking about it, 2 more defensive tackles in this class you're recruiting. That's when you have to do it because you don't know. We saw it this week. LSU loses a 5-star quarterback to Michigan. You better be continuing to recruit every position on the roster. Auburn's done that at defensive line. You might lose a guy, you may pick one up. That's just the name of the game nowadays.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll keep tracking it at auburnundercover.com. The game day recruiting notebook is already up by the time you guys are listening to this with updates. So y'all stay tuned in there. Stay tuned in at auburnundercover.com for updates all throughout the day. And then we'll catch you guys after for the post-game pod.